Hello friends. So we have completed the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So today let's spend some time to summarize the teachings that have been provided in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Shri Krishna starts off with this chapter by giving reassurance to Arjun that the knowledge that he is providing is indeed authentic, and he mentions that he provided this knowledge to Vivasvat, and Vivasvat provided it to Manu, and Manu provided it to his son Ikshvaku, and then Ikshvaku provided it to Vidu, and Vidu then destroyed this knowledge, and the same knowledge now Sri Krishna is providing to Arjun. So here we understood how Sri Krishna actually represents the absolute truth, and the Vivasvat actually is the splendor of an enlightened person. So, in an enlightened person, the absolute truth is speaking about yoga all the time, and that is what is meant by Sri Krishna providing the knowledge to Vivasvat. Then Vivasvat provided it to Manu, and we understood how Manu represents the civilizational aspect of this creation. Then we understood how Ikshvaku represents the wise king, and so the civilization as such is giving the information to the wise king, who is then using the laws that has been provided by the civilizational aspect of humanity. So the wise people who basically understand the civilizational aspect, they wrote the rules, and those rules were actually followed by the wise king. So that was represented by the knowledge provided to Ikshvaku. And then the idea of Vidu we understood to be the wise kings, or we can say the tradition of wise kings, and how this knowledge was transmitted from one wise king to the next wise king. And over a period of time, as the environmental situations change, the knowledge actually got lost, and so that is how we understood how this knowledge was lost. And now Shri Krishna is again providing the same knowledge of yoga to Arjun. So we understood that. After that, Shri Krishna described that he, as absolute truth, basically takes the forms during different epochs to basically establish the Dharma. So here we understood how Hinduism differs from the rest of the traditions, wherein it is generally thought that the absolute truth, or what we call as God, is something which is formless. But we understood how if we have God just to be formless, then that will make him limited, because then he cannot be in form. And so we understood that in Hinduism it is said that God can exist both in formless form and also in the form, and that is because God is infinite, and so he cannot just be limited to being formless or just being in form. So he has to be in both formless and form states. And we then understood how Sri Krishna then explained that he takes up a form whenever there is a decrease in the dharma, and he comes and he establishes the dharma. And so we understood how different representations and different leaders have inspired people to establish the dharma. And so there, this absolute truth actually is coming into a form and then inspiring people to move ahead and establish the dharma. Then Sri Krishna explained about different forms of action, wherein he said what action is, what bad action is, and what non-action is. And we understood how whenever an action is performed while identifying with some identity, be it a human being, or be it a family, or a caste, or a nation, or anything like that, then an action when performed in that form could either be action or bad action, wherein action is just a neutral action where you are performing it for the benefit without harming anybody else. So that is action. But if you are performing it by harming the other entity, then that becomes bad action, and that basically leads to our downfall. While just the action which is performed with an attachment to an entity binds us to this universe. Then we understood that there is an entity which is non-action, which is also an action, but that action is performed without really attaching yourselves to any entity. And when you perform an action like that without really expecting anything in return and only performing it for the benefit of everyone, then that action does not really attach to you, and that's why that is non-action. After that, Shri Krishna described different forms of yajna that a person can perform in this universe, wherein he described how some people uh, they perform this yajna by offering money, while others basically perform different types of yogs, wherein some people perform action, some people gain knowledge, some people actually perform asceticism, some people live a disciplined life, some people control their senses, some people control their diet, and different kind of yajna Shri Krishna described. And finally, Shri Krishna then described that out of all these yajna, the one which is associated with knowledge, wherein you understand what is right and what is wrong, that is the best form of yajna, wherein you are understanding your own situation in this universe. You behave according to that situation, and you have the knowledge of being what is right and what is wrong, and you have the discipline actually to act in a manner which is the right manner. So in the end, basically he says that you have to be completely determined in your own actions, and you have to have right knowledge, and you have to have the discipline to carry out your action in that right knowledge. And if you are going into confusion, if you are irresolute, if you do not have a strong belief in this right knowledge, then you will falter, and with that faltering, that will lead to your downfall. And with that, Shri Krishna ends this chapter by telling Arjun to rise up and fight in this war. Fighting this war is the right action, and he should have the knowledge to understand it, and he should have the resoluteness to act with that right knowledge in the right manner. So that is all the teachings that have been provided by Sri Krishna in this chapter. I hope that I have explained this chapter well to you. With that, I'll close this video. Tomorrow we'll have the questions for this chapter, and I highly recommend you to try out those questions. And we'll then have a lucky draw, and a person who wins in that lucky draw and who provides the answers to these questions, a copy of Bhagavad Gita will be provided to that person by Nikhil. So with that, I'll close this video. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.